It is Sunday night in East Lansing, Michigan. Come on in, gather around, gather around, gather around. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Come on in. We're going to talk Michigan State football, basketball, recruiting. Excited to talk a lot about Michigan State and their big victory over Michigan on Friday night in Ann Arbor. A lot of you were there. Thanks for those of you that said hello to Paul and myself as we were there. Michigan State 75-62. Michigan State, number 14 in the country, beat number 12 in the country, whatever it was on that particular night. Michigan State was outstanding. Good start for Michigan State. As you know, had a little struggle there through most of the first half, back and forth in Michigan State. Got it done in impressive fashion. Once again, Michigan State, with that second half surge, partly due to skill, partly due to coaching, X's and O's, and depth. Depth really shining through for Michigan State in all these second half surges that we've seen against Oregon, against Purdue, against Illinois, and then at Michigan. Big time victory for Michigan State. And Izzo, I tell you what, I don't know when I've seen Izzo really bear down for a regular season game like he did last week. Yeah, it happens here and there at the end of the season when you're trying to win a Big Ten championship, and other times throughout the years when the rivalry for Michigan was really heated. But the reason they had to bear down, and I've been probably beating a dead horse on this, talked about it too much, but Michigan State played 3 mammoth games in 7 days. Very hard to do. And each one of those games was more important than the last. The game at Illinois was the biggest game of the season to that point. The game at home against Purdue was the biggest game of the season to that point. And then the game at Michigan on Friday, the biggest game of the season to that point. 2 days prep for Purdue, then 2 days prep for Michigan. Very difficult to do. Izzo knew it was difficult and appealed to his players to get it done, and really appealed to their competitiveness, their togetherness. He knew it was going to be very difficult, and he asked them to really strengthen and bond together and get it done. And they did not waste 1 minute after that Purdue game. They got into the film, players, nutrition, sleep, meetings, film, meetings, rest, film, eat. It was like NCAA tournament type of logistics, and that was the only way to get it done. Because he knew that Michigan was good, and not only is Michigan good, they had not played Michigan yet, so it's the first time you've played them, and that works both ways. But Michigan had 4 days to get ready for the first meeting. Michigan State had 2 days to get ready for a first meeting, and Michigan State, Michigan's good. Not only are they good, not only was it 2-day prep, which ends up being a day and a half prep, but some of the things that Michigan does is uncommon. Some of the things they do are uncommon. The 4-5 ball screen coverage, how you're going to go about defending that. And Michigan State had good leadership from Akins, from Trey Holloman, from Carson Cooper, and some others. And in order to get that done, in order to stay solvent defensively with awareness within the scouting reports, which Michigan State was very good on that night, awareness within the scouting report, in order to be that solvent, the film study, attention needed to be at A+, and the practices were a little shorter here and there. They tried to save as much time as possible, and there was no time for slippage. And Izzo appealed to the players to get that done. Why? Because he's going for his 11th Big Ten title. Why? Because he wants these players to win a Big Ten championship. Jaden Akins and the seniors have never won one. Why? Because Michigan's had a good season. That's part of it. And Izzo's very paranoid about Michigan State, Michigan stuff. When Michigan State turned the corner and became a great program, a championship program in 98, a Final Four program in 99, a national championship program in 2000, Izzo was bothered, and he used to talk to media about this. He says, why do you guys all want Michigan to be so good so badly? And it bothered him because Michigan State had been good for 3 years, very strong. In 2001, they went to the Final Four for a third straight time, fourth straight Big Ten championship. Michigan had a change in coaches, and Izzo had noticed that anytime Michigan won one game, they're back. He's like, why do you guys want them to be back so bad? When we were building, no one wanted us to be back. What's with you clowns, Daniel Horton has one good game. They're back. Tommy Amaker beats Michigan State once. They've changed it. It's all changed. So Izzo's aware of that landscape. That's the way it is. He's not trying to change it necessarily. Over the course of time, Michigan State's brand, of course, is great in-state and nationally. But he knows, he didn't say this to us, but I know him well enough to know that if Michigan would have won that game, what would the response have been? And there were a lot of columnists there, and the talk shows and everything. Oh, the times have changed. There's been a shift. And Izzo, if it was going to happen, it was only going to happen over his near dead body of going as hard as he could to drive home that win last week. 3 games, 7 days, each game more important than the last 2 days prep. Purdue win that game, 2 days prep again, up against it. An in-season scheduling challenge with these circumstances. I'm not sure that they've really faced something like that. Now, at the end of the year, in that COVID year when Michigan State had to go on that hot streak to get back in the NCAA tournament, that's kind of where Izzo was this past week to get this one done. To get an inside track to a Big Ten title, to get in first place, but all that other bull crap that he didn't want to hear about. He went out and beat back the rebellion and did a good job with it. They might have to play Michigan again, maybe another time. Michigan's pretty good. Michigan can play better than that. I would agree with Dusty May on that. And I do think that one of the factors that helped Michigan State was that Michigan State went into this predator eyes on a rival, their rival, Michigan. And Michigan, I'm sure, tried to get ready for a rivalry game, but until you play in it, I've never played in it, but you guys know what it's about. Izzo's done it, 65 times as a head coach, 63 times, I think. There was a level of togetherness and intensity that Michigan State brought that Michigan, don't blame them for not having it. And I think Michigan might have been taken aback by it early, and then later on the way Michigan State surged through it. In the meantime, Michigan had that hot streak, went on that 15-0 run because they've got skill and they're good. But in the end, Michigan State was more well-rounded, more together. I thought it was interesting that Danny Wolf, Michigan's fine 7-foot stretch 4, said that he felt that Michigan did not stay together well enough through all of that. And part of that, they've done a good job with a bunch of new pieces there, and sometimes when you have a team that's been together a long time, maybe not everybody gets along all that great. Maybe you don't have great chemistry. Coaches are always searching for chemistry. Michigan State has very good chemistry right now, and it goes 9 deep. Now, that includes a couple of freshmen and a couple of transfers. But the rest of them, there's a mentality about it. Matt Painter talked about Michigan State's buy-in. He's very impressed with Michigan State's buy-in. Every coach tries to get buy-in. And this day and age, it's harder and harder for coaches to achieve buy-in because players are coming and going. How much NIL am I getting? I'm transferring out. It's harder and harder to have buy-in. Michigan State's attained buy-in not only with this group, but a group that goes 9 deep, sometimes 10 deep. Very rare. That's when Izzo says we want to be different. That's what he's talking about, because that is different. And for him to achieve that took some wizardry in terms of internal pushing buttons and pulling levers dating back to the summer and the things that they did for team building and team bonding. You might not think that's a big deal, but it's a big deal. Also, the actual personalities of these young men. Now, they've not won anything yet. They've won a lot of games. They're going to be in the tournament for the 27th straight time or whatever it is. But good people, good hearts, good minds, good souls on these guys. Akins, Carson Cooper, Trey Holloman. Good people. Jeremy Fears coming in and doing some good things. Kohler's bought in, and he's on the train too. And Carson Cooper had a comment to Paul Konadike saying part of the reason we're doing this is because we've got good people. Cooper's coming off the bench. He doesn't mind. Holloman coming off the bench. He doesn't mind. A couple of juniors. They're very good. Now, those guys finish games. They might not start them. They're fine. They just want to win a championship. Izzo talks about he's going to keep working on his culture, You're seeing the culture. You're seeing the culture come to the forefront and lead them. And Michigan State has the inside track to win a Big Ten. They still have to play. Maryland's going to be very tough on Wednesday. Wisconsin had been the hottest team in the Big Ten. These are the 2 hottest teams in the Big Ten, Wisconsin and Maryland. So Wisconsin's coming to the Breslin Center on Sunday. That's going to be a battle. So Michigan State has a lot of work to do still. And then they have Michigan again, who's only a half game behind. I wonder what that does to Michigan's confidence. Not sure, but Michigan State's not finished building yet. They continue to get better as well. I think we'll be talking to Nils from the Horn in Austin, Texas, formerly of the Horn in Austin, Texas. We'll be talking basketball with him. What we got here is SpartanMag.com. We've got SpartanMag Live. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like here at the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Go to SpartanMag.com. Become a subscriber. SpartanMag.com. You'll love it. If you like this garbage, you'll love that garbage. It's good garbage everywhere. $1 a week for the first year. $1 a week. $1 a week. $1 a week. SpartanMag. Or $1 a month. Is it $1 a week or a month? I'll have to look into that. Might be a week. Anyway, go check it out. It'll be listed there. Go to SpartanMag.com. Click on it. You'll like it. comprehensive coverage, analysis, Michigan State football, basketball, recruiting, commentary, conversation, all the time. Check it out, SpartanMag.com. And yeah, go ahead and give us a like here on the channel. Over at SpartanMag.com, I invite Michigan State fans from around the globe to post questions, and we entertain those questions here. We got about 10 or 11 of those questions tonight. Also, over in the chat area, comments area, go ahead and leave some comments and some questions over there. We will entertain those questions as well. All right, question number 1. Joe Ski Sparty from West Bloomfield says, who do I think will be Michigan State's next football recruiting commitment? Michigan State's next football recruiting commitment. Michigan State right now, for the class of 2026, they've got, 4 commitments. Edward Whiting, tight end from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Cade Kaufman, quarterback from East Kentwood, Michigan. Eli Bickle, offensive lineman from North Branch, Michigan. Joey Caudill, tight end from Mansfield, Ohio. So those are the 4. Edward Whiting committed on February 8th. So they've had an Eli Bickle on the 19th. They've had 3 commitments in the month of February. So Michigan State doing some finishing there. They're in on some other ones that might be more highly ranked, but these ones, Kaufman, Cade Kaufman, like I said, well, he's a 4-star now. 3-star in industry rankings, 4-star by some of the others. Borderline 4-star. I think he'll end up being a 4-star. I suspect he'll have a good summer. We'll have to wait and see on all that stuff. But anyway, the next Michigan State football commitment. Bickle, Michigan State was in on him for a while. His decision was a little bit of a surprise. Whiting, Michigan State, we didn't really, we knew Michigan State was in there, but didn't necessarily know that was about to happen. So some of these are kind of happening, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but we get surprised by some of these. So I'm not very good at, right now, forecasting who might be next, but I passed that question along to Jason Killup, our very fine recruiting anchor for SpartanMag.com. Jason Killup does a great job. Jake Laskawa does a great job. Kenny Jordan doing a great job. Of course, Paul Konerdijk, associate editor to SpartanMag.com, doing a great job. And the cast of thousands at SpartanMag.com, those of whom post on the Underground Bunker message board, the Final Forum message board. We appreciate all you guys. Even those of you that take shots at me, that's fine, or challenge me on some things. That's great. That's healthy. We like that. I asked Jason Killup who are some of the candidates to possibly commit to Michigan State. And he's got his ear to the ground a little bit better on this than I do, a lot better than I do right now with these players. And he mentioned wide receiver Tayshawn Bardo from Indiana. Now, Indiana's in with him. The Hoosiers are. Wisconsin's in with him. Louisville's in with him. 6'1", 170. A high 3-star, ranked number 521 in the nation, number 4 in Indiana. Not necessarily saying Michigan State's leading, but Michigan State's right in there with him. That's a good little Midwestern battle. Tayshawn Bardo. Excuse me. Hold on a second. Let me see what. 6'1", 170 from Mishawaka, Indiana, Penn High School, Tayshawn Bardo. So that's one that's on the radar a little bit. Also keep an eye on linebacker Angel Luciano from Pennsylvania, 6'3", 215, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Syracuse involved there. A third one, another wide receiver athlete, Tyron Wortham from Sarasota Booker High School. Michigan State's had some players from Sarasota Booker over the decades. He visited Michigan State in January, and he plans, and he also visited during the junior day, January 19th. Offers from Central Florida, Iowa, Boston College, Sarasota, Target. Keep an eye on that one. But I don't really have like a yellow or anything converging on a light orange right now. And those of you that are SpartanMag.com subscribers over the Underground Bunker message board dating back to the 1990s know what the color code means. Red means commitment. Dark orange means about to get a commitment. Orange means there's chatter of a commitment, increased chatter of a commitment. Light orange means chatter. Orange means more chatter. Yellow means beginnings of chatter, but not from direct sources necessarily. It's a color code. Red is a commitment, right? We don't even have any yellows right now, but those three would be ones to keep an eye on going forward, among others. Desert Sparty from Arizona says, Comp, It's a big game coming up on Wednesday. What are the keys to stopping Maryland, he asks. Desert Sparty says he believes this is the hardest game of the 4 remaining games. He's asking who guards Queen, who guards Reese. Both guys are averaging about 9 a game. We're going to get into that right now. Let's see what Nils has to say.
Call from
Nils Deco.
All right, let's go down to Houston, Texas. Talk to our good friend Nils Deco, formerly of the Horn, 97.5 in Austin, Texas. Was it 97.5, Nils? What was the Horn in Austin, Texas?
It was 104.9.
We're going to say 97.5. Anyway.
Okay.
Great to have Nils here.
Nils
is all fired up, ready to play, talk some basketball. I know Nils is fired up. He follows Michigan State basketball, football like a maniac, and he's been doing it since the early 1980s. In terms of knowing where Michigan State players and past players have come in their hometowns and their high schools, you can pick up any program or media guide going back to 1980, 81, 82. Name a player. He'll tell you the jersey number, where they're from. He's a sick individual. We love him. Nils Deco, how you doing, man? You doing all right?
I'm good. We're 13-3. I mean, we're a pretty good spot for a team that probably isn't going to have anybody on the first, second, or third team all Big Ten. Maybe Jace Richardson, but when you think about that, that's pretty amazing that in terms of first, second, or third team all Big Ten, it's going to be hard for Michigan State to have maybe an individual. Maybe Jace Richardson is that person, but
yeah,
outside of that,
Richardson,
I don't see anybody else.
He's rising with a bullet. He's going to be up to third team all Big Ten at least, I think.
I just think based on his metrics, I think he's shooting 88% from 3. I mean, 88% from the foul line and like 55% from the field and right at 40% from 3. I mean, you know, having a heck of a year for a freshman that no one really even gave much, you know, not much thought to back in, September. I know that Rod from the website, he was real excited about him from the summer, and I think you and Paul were as well. This is a guy that, just like you say, every game, especially when it's a big game, he's a different dude.
Paul and I talked about him in the VCast the week of the Michigan football game in 2022. Because his team at Christopher Columbus High School in Florida, they had a big game on ESPN that week. He's teammates with the Boozer brothers. And, Richardson was like a top 45, top 50 type recruit. And we'd seen some film and this and that or whatever. And, he didn't play like Jason Richardson. That was the first thing. But then we watched that game, and I was like, dude, this guy's better than his ranking. And the next day, we're doing a VCast from outside of Spartan Stadium to talk about the Michigan State football game coming up. And I was like, man, the biggest news to me this week is how good Jason Richardson was. And people can go watch that VCast that we recorded that day. I didn't predict this, but I thought that he was better than the ranking, and he didn't have much hype. And I'm not one to hype up people a whole lot unless I think that the narrative is wrong. Like we thought the Xavier Booker narrative was wrong, and we tried to warn people on that. This one, we thought that Richardson wasn't getting enough hype, and we're not in the business of trying to hype people. But on that VCast I was a little bit like, hey, this guy's good. Now, I didn't know he was this good. Even this summer, watching him at Moneyball and in the early practices, I thought he was good, but I didn't know he was going to have this type of moxie and just ability to go get buckets and create buckets off the dribble from range and then scoring in and around the rim in traffic, going to that left hand. As you know, he's been climbing up the charts, and I've got a question here. Somebody asked a question. Let me see if I can find it here in the mailbag. Let me find it specifically. Okay, it's question number 11 from Spartan MD from wonderful West Bloomfield, Michigan. He says, Jim, in your opinion, is Jace Richardson an NBA first-round draft pick? Now, Nils, you know that a lot of the mock drafts right now have him comfortably in the first round. Like, I've seen him as high as 12, 15, 17, something like that. And Spartan MD says his measurables are not favorable, in his opinion. He may need another year. What are your thoughts? So he's asking me that. I'm guessing he's going to go, if that's true, that people are projecting him to be a mid-first rounder, I think he goes. Michigan State's in position to really make a handsome offer here in the NIL era, maybe even comparable to what he might get there. But the thing is, as you know, Nils, I'll ask you your opinion here in a second, but the thing that players and agents really recommend is the sooner you go, the sooner you get to that second contract. You get your rookie contract, then 3 years later, you get to have one of those really crazy dozens of millions of dollars contracts. So that would be, he'd be earlier into doing that, and you never get that year back at the end of your career when it's retirement time. You lose that big contract. If you're number 15 in the first round, what kind of money is that, Nils? What's is there a set rate for that?
I have no clue. I wish I would have looked at that, but you think though, if he would come back, could he be a top 8 pick? Right.
Okay.
I mean, the money gets better incrementally and we need to look at that, but. It seems like to me, money's not an issue with his family, right? His dad did 2 years at Michigan State. I think he was a 5th round draft pick. Was Golden State after his sophomore year. He's as athletic. His dad was as athletic as it gets, but he didn't have the moxie or wherewithal that this guy has. I mean, this guy. The thing is, though, is he Trae Young like? The more he has the ball in his hands, the better he is.
Yeah.
And it's like he doesn't elevate, but he went through. He goes through. He can absorb contact as well as anybody. I think the fact that he's left-handed really helps him because he never gets anything blocked. He's maybe gotten something blocked, once or twice this year, but I'm always impressed with the fact that his shots never get blocked. He does a good job of creating contact, going through a guy's chest, and then laying it in. And then, his shot's kind of, more like you had discussed the other day. He's got a lot of arc on it. He shoots a moon ball.
Shoots it out of a phone booth, as they used to say. People don't know what a phone booth is anymore, but yeah, it gets immediate arc on that thing. I found the rookie salary. Number 15 in the first round gets $3.5 million. It goes up. Number 5 gets $6.8 million. And if you're number 15, you get 3.5, then 3.7, then 3.8 in year 3. Michigan State is not going to be throwing around that kind of money. So if he's going to be going
to throw away 1.5, you give the guy $1.5 million next year, and with the idea that, hey, this is a team that can, really challenge for a national championship if everything goes right. I know they lose Fiddler and then lose Akins, and maybe they get Zapala back if everything works out with, them getting, his eligibility, maybe getting a 6th year because he only played, less than 30% of the games at Utah State. I think that's kind of something they're looking into, but, maybe he likes it there. It seems like to me, he really likes his teammates. His dad is at every game. He saw, he's been going to games since he was 10 years old, like he, mentioned a couple of weeks ago before the Oregon game, and he goes out, has 29 points against Oregon. He goes against Michigan, biggest rival, goes into, like they were saying, there was an article Matt Norlander talked about, that was Michigan, that arena has never been that hyped ever, as long as this scout was around, and he goes in there and has 21 points and just does what he does. I'm just, I think he might be one of those March magical guys that does some crazy stuff in March, and you're like, how did that happen?
Well, what was Miles Bridges projected to be when he came back for a second year? Late first round?
He's always in that 10 to 20, I think,
I wonder what he would say about that. He came back and sophomore year was not that great. He had fun. Jace is loving this. There's no question about that. It just comes down to, business decision. Do you come back and risk injury? That's part of it too. You get paid in the meantime, but you could get injured in the NBA as well. Secondly, we just don't know what the family's going to be thinking because as parents, like you said, they're well off for obvious reasons. You can make a lot of money in college for one more year. What it might come down to is, do you want your son to get into that NBA 82-game schedule and lifestyle right now? Or would you rather him just stay in college and mature another year and forego a couple $1 million? You'll make over $1 million staying. So I don't know. Those are decisions. Those are wonderful first world basketball problems that I wish I had, but I don't have. But the good news for Michigan State is he's playing well enough for these questions to be considered, and that's why Michigan State has the inside track to win a Big Ten title. It's going to be very difficult with Maryland coming up, and the Wisconsin game is going to be a battle on Sunday. This Michigan game, Michigan State beating Michigan, your takeaways from that game as you watched it. I went back over it again today. I've got some notes, but I'm interested in what you have to say. I might interrupt you here and there when you come across a point or two. Go ahead, Nils. What'd you think about that game?
I'm just amazed at the fact when you have tons of ball handlers Michigan State the last 2 or 3 years, they stuck the ball with Hogard,
Yes.
Tyson Walker. I mean, we just dribbled the ball into the ground.
Well,
And it seems like
Hogard was a good ball handler, but he would dominate the ball too much sometimes. Walker was a very good ball handler, could create his own shot and so forth. But sometimes when he got the ball, everybody would kind of stop and wait and just watch him. And that's why the ball would get stuck. Even though those two guys had a lot of talent, it would still get stuck at time with those guys. Go ahead.
And this team, it seems like with Trey Holloman coming off the bench, and we discussed that I think last week, is the fact that Trey Holloman coming off as your sixth man versus Jeremy Fears, you saw it Saturday night. I mean, you saw it on Friday night. The fact that he could score 18 points, he scored 9 points in a matter of a minute and a half. I mean, Trey Holloman, and Paul just discussed this on the DCast, his defense, I mean, he's a different player. It's like you were talking about, his shoulders, the mass he's gained in his shoulders.
You can see it.
Yeah, much stronger. But I was also thinking, tell me one person this year who hasn't gotten better exponentially.
And they're still getting better. Cohen Carr is
I've
getting
never
better.
seen this before. I've never seen this
Collectively, they're all getting better. Kohler had the great game against Purdue, right? He kind of took a little step back against Michigan, but you're not going to be. What was he? 3 out of 4 from 3-point range against Illinois. You're not going to be that every single night, but. And Zapawa had a little bit of a step back 2 weeks ago. He's back on the rise again a little bit. But Holloman, I mean, the great thing about Holloman, talked about this on the VCast, is that guy's fearless. Shot clock's down to 5. Somebody needs a shot. Trey's like, I'll take the shot. Give me the ball. And he'll get a good one up. And he'll threaten the crossover, go between the legs, step back, and he'll get it off. And some nights, if he's a streak guy. And when he gets streaky hot, you saw 3 straight there against Michigan on that particular night. You know who he reminds me of a little bit? And I'm wondering about what he can become as a pro. If nothing else, he's going to make money in Europe because he's got a European scorer style game, As he continues to get better and make reads, I'm not very good at projecting NBA talent. The game has passed me by in that regard. I mean, I see Max Christie get drafted early second round as a shooter, as a guy who did not demonstrate in college that he could shoot. Now, he was drafted based on workouts and so forth. I'm like, man, that's above my pay grade. If you can't demonstrate it in 31 games in college, but you're going to shoot it, you're going to draft him to do that, I don't understand the game anymore. And he went out and he's done a great job. But shoot, I don't know. But Holloman, I'm not saying he's this good, but in terms of a guy that if he got in a situation where he could just let it fly whenever he wanted, you remember World Be Free?
Oh, from Guilford College? Yeah.
And I was talking to Mooby about this. Remember when he was just Lloyd free? When he played for the Sixers, when he was on that team with Julius and Steve Mix and Bobby Jones and
Chocolate Thunder, he was on that team.
Yeah, Daryl Dawkins and Caldwell Jones.
That team in '77 that should have got beat by the Blazers.
Blazers, yeah, they didn't have Moses yet, and they didn't have Cheeks yet, and maybe not Andrew Toney yet, but they had Lloyd Free.
No.
But he was just Lloyd Free, and then he left and went to Golden State, right?
No, he went to Cleveland. Didn't he go to Cleveland at one time in between?
Know. And then he went out west, right? And then he just started firing it up, and then he became World Be Free, right?
He was with the Clippers too. He was with the Clippers.
Yeah. And he was World Be Free, right? He averaged about 30 a game.
100%, yeah.
On a watered-down scale, Holloman reminds me of World Be Free's confidence, and he will let it fly. But Holloman, he's got all this confidence, but he's such a sweetheart team guy. Izzo was talking about how when it was time for Jace Richardson to go into the starting lineup, he went to Trey and said, hey, he's going to be going in. And Trey's like, hey, that's all right, for the team. But Trey's the guy finishing games, and Cooper is the guy finishing games. Those are the guys you can trust on defense. And Trey Holloman making quarterback decisions, making shots, making medium range shots when you get a ball screen against drop coverage or range if in a shot clock situation. And I tell you what, the great thing, which I didn't really realize, when he hit those 3 straight 3-pointers to turn the game around, first of all 3 came in the man-to-man offense. Michigan was playing man-to-man all 3 of those times. Michigan had some success here and there going to zone defense, and sometimes Michigan State would get stagnant. Sometimes Michigan State would run good stuff against it. But man-to-man, they switched it on and off, and that's a smart thing to do because you want to keep Michigan State out of a rhythm. But the first 3-pointer that he made in that grouping, I think the score was 51.
It was 48-47, I think, right?
Yes, and that gave him a 51-47 lead. he was the point guard. Fears was on the bench, but he passes it and gets it and goes to the wing. He's the point guard, but he goes to the wing. He's on the court with Akins and Fiddler's at the 3. So he passes it to Akins. Akins comes to the top of the key. Holloman goes to the left wing, gets a down screen from Kohler, comes off of that, and gets a pass from Akins. The reason I mention this is that's a play, or it's a kind of a series of plays they used to run for Cassius Winston. When Winston was the point guard, but when they wanted to get him off the ball and turn him into a 2-guard for just one possession, you know? I mean, Trey Holloman plays a lot of 2-guard. He did it in the past. But the point is, Fierce is on the bench. Richardson's on the bench. He is the point guard. But they call a play, a Cassius Winston play, where he passes it. Akins comes up top of the key. He goes to the corner, down screen, catch and shoot, 3-pointer. They went to him as a first option to a Cassius Winston type of play. When you're talking about Michigan State players improving as the season goes along, Holloman's been a pretty good player all year, but in terms of having him be a number one option on the list of Cassius Winston plays, that's new territory. Went to it, hit that 3-pointer. That was the first of 3. That was as a point guard getting him off to be getting him off ball to act like a 2-guard, and went to it, and that was drawn up and called from the sideline during live play. That's how much confidence they've got in Trey Holloman.
But you mentioned in the VCast after the game is the fact that on Wednesday you said he shot as well as anybody since Sean Respert in that gym, right?
Well, I didn't say Sean Respert, but I mentioned in the VCast.
Well, I was just saying it's a good,
yeah.
You compare anybody to shooting a basketball.
And it happened on Wednesday. It was the day after the Purdue game, and we're interviewing Carson Cooper, and I'm looking over my shoulder, and after practice, Holloman's out here shooting threes. I'm just noticing he made that one, 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 made that. This is me holding a recorder. Made another one, made another one. Made another one. See, we can't really report what we see in practice. I didn't say anything about it. I asked Izzo after practice. I'm like, well, you guys had a pretty good practice. I was just going to see what he said about it. He says, yeah, pretty good practice. I was deadpanning and he was deadpanning. Nils, they had a great practice on Wednesday. You know, we're not supposed to report what we see in practice. Now that the game's over and the scouting's over and it all goes back to normal and all that stuff. And Holloman had a big game, so Maryland's going to scout him as a shooter regardless of what I say on this podcast. But I didn't say anything afterwards. But on the trip down to Ann Arbor, I was talking to Paul. I'm like, man, Holloman was shooting the lights out in practice, after practice on Wednesday. And then I started counting, and I don't know how much and maybe I might have missed. If he missed one, maybe I had my back turned. But I swear I saw him make like 20 to 25 to 26 straight 3-pointers. And he was still hot by Friday night. So this team, I don't know. He's a nice weapon, a nice little face card to have when you combine him with Richardson and Fears, what he can do. And it's taking some pressure off of Akins. Now, Akins drove in and had one wild shot with about 5 minutes to go and got pulled. And then with like 2 minutes to go, Akins was on the bench and he was still, cheering people on. But it was Fears, Holloman, and Richardson coming down the stretch. But Akins driving on that one at 5 or 6 seconds went in and missed a circus shot. And Izzo was like, what is that? He did that against USC and Izzo didn't like it. So he's still, with Akins, great kid, but still getting him programmed as to what he is. When he drove on that play for that wild shot, I don't know if you remember that one, he had Holloman in the left wing. He could have kicked it out to Holloman. And I mentioned in the VCast after the game on Friday night that Michigan State opened the Purdue game with Akins as a driver and disher, which I thought was like they're really particular on scripting plays and what they want to do. And Purdue, they knew, was going to be on Akins as the leading scorer, as the number one option. So Michigan State was going to drive with Akins and have him drive and kick, which he did for open shots for teammates 2 or 3 times in the opening 5 minutes. I was like, that's interesting. That's a development. That's good use of talent, or limited talent, in my opinion. And I thought we didn't see that from Akins against Michigan. But based on how they started the Purdue game, I'm a little disappointed. I love that Akins had the bravery and the courage to and belief to go in there and try to make that shot. But based on how they began that Purdue game, I would have been even more proud of Akins if he would have driven and kicked it out to Holloman for an open shot right there. That was with Let's see, what was the score? There was about 3 minutes to go, and Michigan State was up 68-62. So you're talking about a 6-point game, and Akins goes in there and misses a wild shot and gets pulled from the game. Very next possession, Michigan goes down, and Michigan travels. Number 11, was that Burnett traveled? They ran the 4-5 screen and ended up, I can't read my notes, but they ended up traveling. Then Michigan State gets it back, and that's when Fears banked in the three-pointer. But so Michigan State was lucky to bank in the three-pointer. Michigan State was so good down the stretch, scoring on 6 of their last 7 possessions. But the one possession in which they didn't score was Akins, with that drive, and didn't connect on that one. So, like you said, they've got, Michigan State's got these driving options, and the thing that Michigan State was, the thing that Michigan State had that Michigan did not have was that dribble drive ability at all those positions. Michigan didn't have anybody like that. Trey Donaldson's pretty good in some areas, but Michigan State's got that. And you're right, there's some years when Michigan State hasn't had anybody that can beat anybody off a dribble. But Richardson's doing it with that left hand. Fears can do it. Holloman's doing it now. And Akins not great at it. But now that Akins, we talked about this before, now, coming into the season, Akins was supposed to be Batman. This is his year to step up. He wanted to be the Kobe Buffkin type of guy and become a prospect and all these things. But he's just kind of limited. He's a good player, a very good college player, and I'm guessing professional. In Europe, I would think he'd make more money over there than in the G League. He'll try the G League, and I don't know. But when Richardson really went off against Oregon, I thought Akins in some ways played his best game of the year that day. Scored about 10 or 11, was not hot, but changed his role, got out of the way kind of, let Richardson go off, and Akins became the defensive stopper. He took Shielstad in the second half, said, I got this guy. So he became a 3-and-D guy. I think he might have made 1 3-pointer that day. But this team can use a 3-and-D guy. If Akins can square back into being a 40% three-point shooter, which is very good, which he's been in the past, and play defense like he can play and lead like he can and be a mature athlete and be a 3-and-D guy, that could fit real well. Maybe he's not Batman, but he can be a hell of a Robin. Izzo talks about we need a Batman, we need a Robin. Okay, he was supposed to be Batman, not happening. Jace is the Batman. Akins can be a hell of a Robin, Nils Deco.
Well, I think that, when he doesn't think as much, I think he's a much better basketball player. You put him in the corner, like you're saying. He defends the opponent's best player. Like he shut up. I think it was was it Shellstad when they played Oregon? Who had gone off.
Yeah.
He went nuts in the first half. In the second half, they put Akins on him, and he really kind of turned off his water, I think.
Yes, exactly right. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what Akins needs to be. He needs to be that guy. He needs to attack the basket 3 or 4 times a game, but in situations like you're saying where it benefits, in the best interest of the basketball team, he doesn't have that pressure. He can't be the guy to get a basket. He's not that guy.
Right.
And that was the thing that Robbie Hummel talked about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it was mentioned on the website. But I think Jace Richardson's that person. He just seems for some reason like that 3-pointer against Purdue right before the half, when it's a breakdown. He comes up with a 25-footer that he hits from the top of the key against Purdue in the first half. And you're like, some guys just have that ability, right?
Yes.
And I think he just has that ability. He just, no matter the situation, he's, like you always say, he's never rushed. Most guys get rushed, and their mechanics go out the window. This guy just, every time, he has faith in what he's doing, and no matter if there's 0-0-0 on there, he's hitting that shot. And that shot was with 0.4 seconds, I think, on the shot clock in the first half of that game. And it ends up being a big basket. It was kind of a turning point. And then he had, that steal that he throws the lob to Cohen Carr that Cohen Carr still hasn't come down from. So, just the impact that he has. And like Izzo said in the press conference, I think he only had 13 shots on Friday night, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just the efficiency. You don't see many freshmen. And like, Tyson Walker, he had, he was a volume shooter. Richardson's just kind of the opposite.
Mm-hmm. And Michigan State scripted Richardson to go to work early in the Michigan game. First possession of the game, they get him on the right side ball screen, getting the ball screen going to his left hand to the middle. And I can't remember who was guarding him, but Michigan, with their ball screen defense, a lot of times they just switch and put a big, they'll put a center on a point guard off a ball screen. They just switch everything and drop and kind of give you shots. And I don't know long term how well that's going to work out. Maybe as they get better athletes, if they do, they can continue to do that. I don't know. But on the first possession of the game, Richardson going side ball screen, working to his left hand, and the defender is scrambling to get back into the lane to get back into the paint to shut off the drive, and Richardson just stops and hits the 3-pointer because that's you just panicking to recover, right? Next possession, drives for a layup. He scores Michigan State's first 5 points. That time they do the ball screen differently, and he's got an avenue all the way to the lane, so it's 5 points. And at the other end, gets a defensive rebound. Golden is posting up Zapawa early in the game. Kohler comes over to help. So now Wolf kind of has a clear route to the offensive glass, right? Nope, Richardson's in there, and it's a rebound, and Jace Richardson goes up and out jumps the 7-footer for a defensive rebound, pulls it down, and leads the break. This is the first 90 seconds of the game. I mean, come on. They go to him in the script, and he gets him 5 points, and then he defensive rebounds over Wolf. Just playing his game, Just greatness seems to follow this kid, and it was fun to watch. Now, that second Holloman 3-pointer, on this one, Holloman was on the left wing. Akins gets a ball screen, and Akins misses a 3-pointer. And Kohler beats Golden for the offensive rebound. Golden's a very good player. He's really improved with his ability with his touch around the rim. I remember him as a sophomore when Florida Atlantic was in the NCAA tournament. I watched them from courtside play against Memphis, and I thought both teams were dog crap, and I was amazed that Florida Atlantic made the Final Four. I would have bet my car, your car, and the entire Pacific Fleet that they would not have made the Final Four that year after watching that garbage game against Memphis in the first round. The most poorly played NCAA tournament game I have ever seen, and I've seen, I don't know, from courtside, I've probably seen over 150 NCAA tournament games. That's the worst I've ever seen. I still can't believe that Florida Atlantic beat Tennessee a week later in Sweet 16. I have no idea how that happened. Anyway, so Golden, good player, but Kohler beats him to the offensive glass, kicks it back out. Holloman hits a 3-pointer, makes it 54-49. The next one, the third of those 3-pointers, this time high ball screen, and they switch like I was talking about, and they put Wolf on Holloman. They'll switch, and they'll put a power forward on a point guard. They'll put a center on a point guard, which, man, you better have athletes like the Houston Cougars have had if you're going to switch at all 5 positions. Michigan doesn't have that, but they've got that length. We talked about this in the VCast, or I think I mentioned it on the Final Four message board, that they will switch a 1 onto a 5. And when that happens, and if it's Fears being guarded by a center, Michigan does it, and they don't pay for it that much. Teams have not really made them pay a whole lot for it. They'll give you space, and then if you drive, they kind of cut you off to get to the rim, and they block the shot at the rim. They've had success with that. It's a little bit of against common basketball logic of years gone by, but Michigan mainly has made that work. This one, it didn't on this one, on the third Holloman 3-pointer. Ball screen switch. Wolf is guarding Holloman. Holloman just stepped back between the legs, 3-pointer, because Wolf was giving him space, right? He's like, okay, go ahead and beat me off the dribble if you want. I'm going to block your shot at the rim. But he just made 2 3-pointers. He's got room, made it. Izzo joked about it being, I guess they call that a heat check these days. Yeah, that was a heat check. And good on Holloman for taking that shot and making it. 3 straight 3-pointers, 3 straight possessions. 57-49, 10:43 to go. That was a turning point in the game right there. Michigan made another push, but Michigan State beat them back on it. But those were against man-to-man. Holloman 3 different ways. 1 was a Cassius Winston play they ran for him. 2 was offensive rebound from Kohler. And number 3 was high screen switch, step back 3. 3 different flavors of 3-pointers from Holloman. And it was just beautiful for Michigan State fans to see that.
I mean, and you think about it, if you put him on the scouting report, I don't know where Michigan had him on the scouting report. Like you talk about, Maryland's going to put, he gets moved up probably 3 or 4 rungs, but
that scouting report's changing every week, isn't it?
And that's the problem. I think that's what someone discussed. I think even Matt Painter said you don't know who, so you have to, you got 10 people or 9 people that you have to, take in consideration. I think 8 different people have led Michigan State in scoring this year. Is that right?
Might be more. Might be 9. I don't know.
Okay, which is unheard of, right? In the game, when you only played 27 games, so 33% of the time you don't know who's going to be the leading scorer. But I just, it's a feel-good type of situation with Michigan State right now. You're 13-3 in the Big Ten. Michigan's a half game behind you. You got, you had everything you wanted to have happen yesterday. Wisconsin loses. Purdue lost today, so Maryland and has got 5 losses. Michigan has their 12-3, but I think Michigan. I think people are trying to figure. They figured them out. 'Cause I don't think their guards are real dynamic. Like Reuben Jones, the kid that's from down here in Houston, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize. Yeah, his grandparents tried to come and buy a house from me about 2 years ago. A true story.
Really?
So, yeah. And he went to
You
Wheatley,
always
and he went to North
cross
Texas.
paths with parents of basketball players. You know more parents of
I
players
know.
than anybody.
I asked too many questions, but real nice people. But he's not real dynamic athletically. I don't think he's been okay. I think that Donaldson kid had never been in a game where he had to play as much and expend as much energy as he had to do on Friday. I think that affected him. And then that number 4, the kid, the transfer from Texas Tech, he's an okay player, but he just sits in the corner and shoots open threes. It's like they just don't have a dynamic guard.
Burnett,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
nobody that really beats you off a dribble. Donaldson will threaten the dribble and shoot from range. The thing about Donaldson, he can get hot, and that's a guy that Izzo said was kind of an underrated X Factor type of guy that they had to keep an eye on. Donaldson only one 3-pointer, and on that one, I got in the notes somewhere what happened on that one. But anyway, he was 1 out of 5. The thing there is 5 shot attempts. That's low for him. The previous 6 games, Trey Donaldson for Michigan had attempted 10, 8, 15, 14, 7, and 13 shots. Against Michigan State, on a game in which Michigan was trying to find points somewhere and not shooting well from three-point range, he only mustered 1 out of 5. And, he played a lot of defense. He guarded Richardson a lot. I thought that he was guarding the point guards, but when I went back and watched it again, he was guarding Richardson a lot. And the way Michigan will run you in transition, and Michigan State got in on Donaldson on the catch. They were sagging off of that dude, Jones, and they sagged off of Pippen and some others, but when Donaldson got it, they were there on the catch. When Burnett got it, they were there on the catch. So being in that scouting report, we can think of games in the last 4 years when Michigan State loses a game and Izzo in the post-game press conference is complaining, like, scouting report said the guy goes left and we're not listening to the scouting report. Scouting report says he's a shooter on the catch and we're not there. How many times do you hear Izzo say that in the last 3 or 4 years? You're not hearing him say that very often this year. Guys are into the scouting report, and that's partly gets into those other cliches about a player-led team. Akins is into it. Cooper's a good leader. Holloman's a good leader, and everybody else follows suit. You don't have any
There's no brain fog this year.
Yeah,
there's been in the past.
It's been optional. In past years, that intensity's been optional. We've seen it high, we saw it low. We saw it high, we saw it low, and it drove Izzo crazy. And a big reason for that is no longer in the program. Now we got a bunch of OKGs, and the urgency and the focus is more consistent now, and so are the number of wins.
Can we talk about Sadie Washington? Because he had the scout on Friday, and I think he's been kind of the big man coach because the development with Carson Cooper. I mean, what he was last year to this year. I mean, he's shooting about 78% from the free throw line. I mean, he doesn't mishandle basketball. Like, his hands are so much stronger and better.
His hands used to be I love Carson, but his hands used to be
the worst.
Manos de Piedra. They were terrible.
Yeah, he struggled.
They now you can give it to him and he'll catch it. And I saw him in practice for a couple of years. Saw him in Moneyball for a couple of years. Little by little, the hook shot was starting to come around. Now when he gets in the post, if the hook shot goes up, he makes it. It's not a first option weapon, but if he happens to get it down there low, he's not a duck out of water. He looks like a basketball player down there. And he had that one shot clock play along the baseline against Purdue where he threw that leg up like Dirk Nowitzki. That was smooth and looked good. It's like, what was that? He goes, yeah, I've been working on that play. And he said, no, just kidding. He has been working on it, but he was humble about it. But it looked okay. When he had to shoot, when the shot clock was down, he manufactured a basketball-looking shot and made it. And
he's a 4.0 student, too, as well. I mean, I think the intellect on his team, like as I was talking about Jace Richardson, that Matt Norlander article, like, this kid's got a photographic memory, real sharp student. Just, it's just amazing what you can do when, it seems like a really smart team, this team. And I think Akins is like a fantastic student. I don't know what they're taking academically. Maybe they're all taking kinesiology, whatever that may be. I'm not hating on that, but this is a smarter group than Michigan State maybe has had in the past.
Kinesiology is hard at Michigan State. It's pre-med and other things. It's difficult.
Miami doesn't have that program.
Point's well taken, though. There are ways to make things a little easier for you for sure. Richardson is, I was talking about Richardson in the defense that he's playing, and I didn't really notice it as much till I went back and watched it again. First of all, Michigan areas where Michigan State's making some progress. You know, Michigan can shoot. They got 4 shooters out there, including the 4 and the 5. So Michigan State is pressing up on that, and they run a lot of 5-out offense with high ball screens and screen slip. So Michigan State's pressing up on them like Michigan State did against Illinois. Illinois beat Michigan State with those screen slips and back cuts like all game. I thought Michigan State was unnecessarily pressing up on Illinois. I rarely find anything to criticize, you know, macro game planning that Michigan State's done in the last 900 games. But that one, and I said in the post-game VCast after the game, I was like, that wasn't working out too well, and I didn't really understand. But there's a reason for everything, and they were playing Illinois as if they were good shooters. They were not playing the Illinois stat sheet. They were like, forget the stat sheet, these guys can shoot. Well, the stat sheet still says that the Illinois guys can't shoot. But that day, Michigan State was up on them, and they were getting beat by some back cuts. Against Michigan, Michigan State was up on them as well because they've got shooters, and they can be dangerous. And Michigan was running some screen slips and back cuts and some of the 4-5 dive. And Michigan State was better at anticipating and running with the slip man. There's one time when Cooper committed a foul on a back cut, and Cooper didn't think he got him, and maybe in some games they might not have called it. But the point is, Cooper saw it, knew what was coming, reacted to it with quickness, and that play that Michigan's been blistering everybody on all year, Cooper had the quickness and the foot speed to react to it, got called for a foul. But Michigan State was pressing up against the 5-out offense and was not as susceptible on some of the back cuts and screen slips like they were against Illinois. Getting better as they go. Michigan State making progress. Jace Richardson, Izzo talking about, I keep undervaluing him or underrating him as a defensive player, and I keep looking up, and he's beyond his years. And I saw what he's talking about when I went back and watched it on some of the things that Richardson was doing in terms of awareness away from the ball on the weak side. Sometimes when he was guarding Reuben Jones, the awareness, like when he switched on to Donaldson, he's guarding Jones and he's sagging, then there's a screen and Donaldson catches it, and Richardson doesn't look at it and say, oh, that's number 3. I'm supposed to get out on him too late. The guy's going to shoot a 3-pointer, right? He's moving not on the catch. He's moving on the pass. He's sagging off of Jones. Then there's a screen, and it's going to Donaldson, and he's moving before he catches it. He identifies that I'm guarding a non-shooter right now, but there's a screen, and there's a flare screen. Now a shooter's about ready to catch it. I'm not going to process this late for a freshman to identify that, get out on him, and, you know, discourage a shot. And Donaldson, like, dribbles and then passes it, and the shot does not get attempted. You know what I mean? Because Richardson is playing off of Jones, but making an adjustment beyond his years. There's another one where Wolf was going against Carr. Carr's guarding Wolf, which is a little bit of a little bit of a crisis situation for Michigan State. Michigan State believed in Carr and believed he could do it. He's 6'6". He's guarding a 7-footer who can dribble and all these things, but it was a choke point in this game, and Wolf went to work on him a couple times, didn't make anything happen. On this one, Wolf went against Carr, little spin move, and Richardson was guarding Jones, I think, and Richardson is again sagging off his man and helping Carr, and Wolf is going to drive. This is like 13 minutes to go. It's 44-42. Important. All these possessions are important. Richardson's aware. Carr is guarding Wolf because Cooper's out of the game because he's in foul trouble. Carr might need some help. Been working on it. So Richardson is sagging, not too much, not too little. Awareness, eyes, and spin dribble. And he reaches in for a dig and might have gotten a little bit of the basketball, just a little bit. Didn't get a steal, but gets it and then reacts back out to his guy. Wolf goes in and misses a reverse layup. If he doesn't help right there, probably scores. But just enough awareness, just enough help defense. Richardson is a weak side defender, and this game was excellent. And I didn't realize that Richardson had the deflection that led to that steal when Michigan came out of a timeout. Baseline inbound play, 9.5 minutes to go. Michigan State's up 59-51. Michigan, baseline inbound play underneath Michigan State's basket. So Michigan's going to try to run a play and get a shot. Richardson, deflection, steal. Remember the steal on the baseline inbound play? I didn't realize that was Richardson until I watched it again. And then the other one, one more, Reuben Jones. So Richardson's making all this damage as a help defender. Really smart, sag, low man help defender. All right, one time it goes up to Reuben Jones. Now Reuben Jones is going to try to take Jace Richardson off the dribble. Like you said, Jones and some of these guys, they're not the most dynamic off the dribble guys, and that's a weakness for Michigan, and that could hurt them in the tournament. So, okay, I'm going to take Richardson off the dribble. Nope. Richardson stays in front, shuts him off. They give it to Golden. Golden travels, 8 minutes to go. turnover caused by Richardson. Richardson's defense, that's glue basketball, glue defense. Jace Richardson, star of the night. Molson, 3-cup star selections. Nils Deco. Your thoughts?
So the thing I think, so Richardson, I think he's a lot stronger than. I wish he would not wear, an undershirt. You could really see, his shoulders, but he's a lot stronger than you realize as well. Because like you're saying, people don't get him off the spot. You know what I mean? They don't get him off the spot.
Yeah, I'm hearing that about Cohen Carr too. That he's got some great strength. We know he can jump like crazy. And
his shoulders have filled out as well.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a different person.
We know he can jump like crazy. We've not seen many people in the Big Ten that have been able to jump like him in the last ever, And those that can jump usually can't run like that. Jason Richardson could really, really jump, and his speed was okay. This guy could jump like crazy, and baseline to baseline, he's faster than Mo Ager. He can run, man. And I've not seen it, I don't doubt it, but I hear he's crazy strong too. I mean, he's just like, what test tube did this guy come from? And a beautiful kid. And now he missed a little pull-up 12-footer, which I've always said that's next for him. And we've seen him do it in a couple games.
That's next summer.
Yeah, we talked about that next year at Moneyball. I'm going to tell Izzo doesn't listen to me, but I'll tell him something, and he'll nod like he's listening, and I'm going to say, dude, because Moneyball already kind of bothers Izzo. He loves it as an outreach mechanism for his players to play in front of a lot of people, townspeople in Lansing, Michigan, who might not be able to come to a lot of games, right? So he loves the outreach aspects of it. But it bothers him when he hears that, Xavier Booker scored 48 points at Moneyball, because he thinks, man, all these fans, they think that this guy scored 48 in a real game. Now they're going to be on my ass because I'm not playing him, or he's got to do. They don't understand. I'm like, Izzo, it's okay. They understand. No, you don't know. I hear from these people. Izzo, he's all right. He wants everybody to be happy, and he wants everybody to just. He's concerned about everybody's opinion as much as he hates it. He wants everybody. And it's a defense mechanism a little bit for him, and it's what makes him a wonderful person. But it's like, Izzo, don't care. It's fine. But my suggestion is going to be, and you know where I'm going with this, Cohen Carr, Moneyball. Everybody shows up to watch you dunk, and that's great and everything. Maybe dunk once a game, that's it. But the rest of the Moneyball season, if you've got an open avenue, I want you to stop and pull up and attempt a 10-footer. Stop, pull up 12-footer. Stop, pull up 14-footer. At Moneyball all summer, Cohen Carr, nothing but pull-up jumpers in the paint and some three-pointers. But I appreciate that you like to dunk, and I appreciate that you like to give the fans their I don't want to say their money's worth, because it's free to go to those games, and he wants to give them something. But for Cohen Carr's development, my suggestion would be next summer, nothing but medium-range jumpers, because once he gets to that, because the shot release is looking better, and it's showing itself at the free throw line. With his ability to, his speed, and his ball handling's pretty good, quite good. His speed with the dribble and the elevate, nobody's going to defend that shot in the college game. He's going to be able to rise up, and he's going to have an uncontested 12-footer anytime he wants. That can be an amazing shot for him. I don't know. I'm just a sports writer, but that would be my thought.
He could be scoring 20 points a game next year if you had to. And I think he could also play off the block. I mean, on that left block. I mean, that's something I think that he can learn, because just the fact that he has that ability to rise and fire, at the level that there aren't many people like that out there.
Did you notice that Wolf looked a little uncomfortable going against Carr when Carr was up in his kitchen playing defense? When Carr was guarding him, when Carr was guarding the four-man?
Wolf? He's stronger than you realize. You look at those shoulders. He's like, I'm not saying he's not the number 22 Brandon Dawson level, but he's getting there. Because Brandon Dawson, that was the one thing about Brandon Dawson. He could put his forearm on you, and those other guys would just wilt. I mean, he was just like a multiple defender. He was as good as Michigan State, I think, has ever had. I think he was better than Draymond in college, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I might be off.
No, you're right. Because Draymond had to conserve energy, because they didn't have a lot of depth, and they did not. They had to do so much on offense. They didn't ask him to be the defensive player he became in the pros. And in college, Draymond would take some possessions off. I'd say that to his face, and he would agree. I think he would.
But Cohen Carr, you see where he was 12 months ago.
Yeah.
I just think the scope of improvement with so many of these people. What could Jace Richardson be next year? He could be probably one of the first team All-American if he were to come back next year.
Yes.
Carr, I think it's.
And Carr, when he was guarding Wolf, or going back when he guarded Ace Bailey for Rutgers, he'd get down in that low stance defense, and Bailey would just I don't think I'm going to be able to shoot over this guy. But Carr's not going to go up and try to block your shot. They want him to play sound, and he did that against Purdue. He'd race out on guys and did not go for those Fletcher Lawyer shot fakes. Cohen Carr, discipline. He's coachable, and he's been coached not to go hunting for those crazy block shots. Block shots are beautiful. I think Michigan State ranks number 1 in the Big Ten in block shots, and they do it without jumping out of their shoes. But when you've got number 55 running out at you, you just assume he's going to block it, right? He doesn't have to try to block it because he's already blocked you mentally, right? And he's coiled, and people are not real comfortable about shooting over him. And he's in that low stance with those shoulders, and you don't see people trying to drive on him that much. Bailey just got rid of the ball. And Wolf dribbled a couple times, just kind of got rid of the ball a few times. Carr, man, he's messing with people.
Did you watch Carr at all in pregame the other night?
No. What happened?
Because Matt Norlander or the guy from the Athletics, I read an article, they said they'd never seen like dunks in a pregame at the college level like Cohen Carr had the other night. They said, and I think it kind of messes with the other team's heads. You're like, what am I seeing here? Because you don't see that kind of. It's that dude. It's like practicing against Saquon Barkley. You don't see it every day. So how do you figure it out? It's like practicing against Patrick Mahomes. It's just, you can't game plan for it. Just when you have that kind of ability at a different level. I think that, I think Michigan State has a couple people like that. I mean, they haven't had an athlete like Cohen Carr since Maury Sager, Shannon Brown, and Kelvin Torber back in 2005. That was an athletic team. I think this team is probably the most athletic team they've had in some time.
And Carr is the most athletic player they've ever had.
Since jumper Johnny Green in 1957.
I heard Rafferty mention him during the telecast.
He did. That was a great thing about that the other day. I'm like, where did he get that? Yeah. Rafferty must have played against him.
Well, he said he remembered Green playing for the New York Knickerbockers. Green made the NBA All-Star game like 4 or 5 times or something like that, right? I just looked at his Wikipedia page a couple days ago for some reason.
What's that picture?
The picture of
him and Julius Erving.
Oh, right. From Rucker Park? Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. I had another point about Cohen Carr. What was it? Darn it.
Being able to get low on Danny Wolf in terms of his strength, you think?
Oh, about the dunks? I mean, at Midnight Madness last year, was it this year or last year? I mean, everybody knows about the fabled Michael Jordan dunk from the free throw line in the NBA dunk contest. At Midnight Madness at Michigan State, Cohen Carr dunked from the free throw line between the legs.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Not by like a competitive basketball player. There might be some crazy triple jump gymnast that can do it. I don't know. But in terms of like an actual, good Division I basketball player that's just freakazoid stuff, and he's continuing to get better. It's there's progress there. Progress with Richardson's defense. Still an issue when Michigan State has the ball and Michigan played man-to-man in the early going. Michigan and every other opponent can sag off of Zapala and not guard him. They can sag off of Fears and not guard him. Then Michigan State goes to the bench and they sag off of Cooper and not guard him. And they sag off of Cohen Carr. Now, some of what Cohen Carr does, if you don't guard him, he power dribbles in the lane, makes you guard him, chests up, and that's where I think he could rise and hit a 5-footer or pass it, which we've seen a little bit. That might be next frontier on some things. When he doesn't get guarded, he goes at it and makes you guard him. He'll just take it closer to the rim. But the other guys, if they get it and they're unguarded, they're just a conduit in the offense, and they look to reverse the ball and set a screen, which is okay. You can play basketball that way. I mean, Dick Bennett, Tony Bennett, they had 2 guys that, they were blockers and movers. They had 2 blockers all the time. And you can run a decent offense with a couple of blockers out there. But still, the way Michigan sagged off of him, the same thing that USC did with what Musselman called their funky defense, sagging off and not guarding some people. Michigan State puts lineups out there where there's a couple guys that you don't have to guard. Now, when the shot clock gets down to 1 and someone's got to shoot, people might be surprised that Zapala can make a 12-footer. Does that come out here in the last 4 games? Probably not enough time in this season for that to show itself. Maybe that a lot of times that doesn't happen until late in your career. And I always talk about the most famous instances. When David Thomas
Hauser?
No, David Thomas, when he made shots against John Chaney's Temple offense, they left him unguarded. And David Thomas was always, a facilitator and defense and some rebounding at the guard position. Never really shot much. Temple made him shoot. and he made 3 or 4 jumpers that day, and that put Michigan State in the Final Four in 2001. Travis Walton against a very good USC team in the second round. I think USC played a triangle in 2, right? Was that at the Dome in Minnesota? And Michigan State against, what was the guy's name for USC that was great? Still in the NBA, I think. Anyway, Travis Walton.
You talking about DeMar DeRozan?
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan. Travis Walton, captain, defensive player, point guard, moved off point when what? Neitzel showed up, I think, maybe. But USC made Walton shoot, and he made shots that day. I go all the way back to the second round of the 2000 tournament. Rick Majerus said, we wanted to make Mateen Cleaves shoot. There was not much of a soft underbelly in this team, which is a funny quote from Majerus in those days, looking for a soft underbelly. But he said, they didn't really have much of a soft underbelly. We thought Cleaves, he's the guy that we sagged off of, and he made shots and beat us. So to go in the NCAA tournament, to avoid an upset against a very good Utah team, second round, Cleaves made shots. I know he's a senior, he should. Walton, senior, beat USC. DT, senior, Temple, won that game. At some point this season, it's going to need to be Kohler, Akins, maybe Cooper taking a 15-footer, because when you get further and further in that tournament, you play against good defenses. There's a reason you're open, and there's a reason all your talented teammates didn't shoot, and the shot clock's down to 3, and you're down by a point with 1:10 to go. Carson Cooper, 12-footer, can he hit that?
What do
I
you
don't
think,
know.
Jeremy?
Zapawa can hit that a little bit. It's not something you go to. It's not something you want, but I don't know when that happens. But it's sometimes that ball has.
What do you think, Jeremy?
Fears, yes. That's what I was looking for. Fears has to make that shot.
You know what Fears is shooting from 3 this year?
He's like 40%.
37, I think, is what I saw the other day.
Here, I got it right here. 37%, 10 out of 27.
Yeah. And so, and then
Very
Holloman's up to
economical.
33%. So,
Yeah, he is.
The thing is, Fears, he hit that bank shot. Danny Wolf even said in the article I read, he was talking about that. That kind of was a backbreaker for them when he banks that one in from the top of the key. But, if Jeremy Fears ever figures it out, then it's a whole different deal. It's a whole,
yes.
in terms of shooting. Because as a defender and his ability, I think it was, 12-1, the Michigan State on assist to turnovers at the point guard spot against Michigan. Is that right? Or is that against Purdue?
Against Purdue.
Okay. I can't remember what it was, but
no, but and I don't know what's happened with Fears. This summer I've mentioned to you a number of times, like, man, I he's coming back from that awful gunshot situation. I'd see him in the summer. I'm not sure if he can shoot. See him in the fall. I'm just not. I didn't want to make a huge deal out of it. But on the message board at SpartanMag.com, I'm like, well, Fears has to show he can. We don't know if he's got the horsepower to jump and run and all these things. And the shooting, I just don't know. I don't know if that's ever gonna. Just don't know. Well, the horsepower is coming along pretty nicely. But early in the season, he took some open shots and made a nice percentage of them. And I was like, well, forget what I was saying. He's shooting just fine. But here in the last 3 weeks, he's lost confidence in it. The shots gotten erratic on him. That was not the case in November. I thought it was going to be a big issue back then. It was not an issue then. It is an issue now. You could see in the Purdue game, he was turning down open medium range shots. The hesitancy, lost confidence. They go to halftime. They come back in the second half, and he attempts a three-pointer. First possession of the second half. I didn't ask Izzo about this. I did not ask Fears about it, but I suspect Izzo told him at halftime, you're going to be open, you're going to shoot, you're going to make it. Well, he was open, he did shoot, he didn't make it. But the point is, Izzo wanted to reinstill some confidence. You can't have an offense function if the other team does not have to guard the point guard. If you've got a Doug Gottlieb playing point guard for you, like when he was where was he at? Marquette? Where did he play? Syracuse? Oklahoma State. You didn't have to guard him if he had his shorts on straight, whether it's backwards, it doesn't matter. You didn't have to guard him. That's a problem. When was it Keith Appling when he had the wrist injury?
Yeah,
he's such a good shooter, such a good scorer. He was a better high school point guard, I think, than Cleaves was because he could do more things. Got to Michigan State.
He scored 51 points in the state championship game. Who does that?
Terrific, and had the athleticism, had the toughness. Made good reads.
Had huge hands. People don't realize how huge his hands were. He had the largest hands for a point guard ever. His dad. I met his dad there in Fort Wayne. Shook his hand.
Tough.
I'm
good.
like, Jiminy Christmas.
Now, not as physically strong as Cleaves, did not have that indomitable spirit like Cleaves did, and didn't read the game like Cleaves did, and few could. But Appling was good at all those things and could shoot it better than Cleaves and was quick, could elevate, and an excellent player. and that senior year hurt his wrist, and just never got that shot back together. And the day they lost to UConn in the Elite Eight, they were a healthy wrist away from going to another Final Four and maybe winning Izzo's second national title. They talk about the injuries they've had: Appling with the wrist, Alan Anderson in 2005, and Kalen Lucas in 2009. Seriously, Izzo could have won 3 more national titles. I'm thinking 1 in there somewhere. And I know North Carolina and Illinois were great in 05, but Michigan State led North Carolina, I think, at halftime. And
37-32.
And Michigan State was unable to do their transition blitz counter break because Anderson was injured.
Playing on a bum wheel.
He got hurt against Kentucky, and an NBA player, and nobody knew he was an NBA player at the time, but Michigan State's best player. Otherwise, that could have been a red letter Izzo upset of North Carolina, a good North Carolina team that won the national title. And I'm telling you what, if Anderson's healthy in that game, North Carolina does not want to run that game back. They don't even know. But anyway, but Appling, if you don't, as good as he was when the shot went away and he was open and UConn kind of left him open, but if you don't have a point guard that can make shots, and Fears, there's an issue there. There's 4 games left. You got 30 games. Get your crap together. Beautiful kid. He's breaking things down, doing a good job of that, playing good defense. But if you don't have that, now you got Holloman. Late game. This is 3 straight games. Holloman's been the point guard in the last 2 minutes. Last 3 minutes, he's been the quarterback, and he's handled it. And that's great because prior to that, he had some games in which his guard decisions were not great. He had some turnover spats there for a while. He's past that now. Now he's world beat free, and he's making good decisions. And I tell you what, which I didn't realize was as good as until I went back and looked at it, was that alley-oop to Cooper. All right, there's 14:49 left. Michigan State takes a 44-42 lead on this one. Holloman had just scored on kind of give it up, handoff, kind of a give and go thing where he just goes in and scores. There's that dynamism, the dynamic nature of Michigan State's guards that can slip and slender and slither and go all the way to the cup and finish. Michigan doesn't really have that, and that was just a little horsepower tick that Michigan State had in their engine that Michigan didn't have. But Holloman showed it on that one, got a layup. Very next possession, ball screen, and now Golden is honoring Holloman because Holloman just raced past him a second ago for a layup. So Golden is really honoring Holloman. And Holloman throws the alley-oop, and I asked Holloman about it in the locker room after the game, about that alley-oop. And he said, with their 7-footers, we weren't sure if that was going to be there or not. We had it all day against Purdue. We weren't sure in this game. Plus, we did it against Purdue. We knew they'd be guarding it. And both 7-footers were on the court at that time, Golden and Wolf. Ball screen, and he throws the alley-oop jam to Cooper. It looks great, and alley-oops sometimes are quote-unquote easy. That one was pretty well defended. There was a lot of air traffic up there. And Holloman, as much as Izzo was aggravated by the alley-oop turnovers that he threw in consecutive plays to Carr in the first half, that alley-oop was pinpoint with the read and trajectory and where it was caught, and the catch and finish was not easy. That was pretty well defended, but it was a big-time read, big-time pass, big-time catch, big-time finish. That alley-oop dunk to go up 44-42 was not easy. That was a high skill level finish right there, and I didn't realize it until I went back and looked at it again, how good of a play that was. I took that one for granted. Don't take that one for granted. That was a big quarterback play by Holloman right there.
So I think Holloman also benefits from the fact that you discussed this. I don't know what game it was where he had to go full out, and by the timeout, he was laying on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know which game. That was the Illinois game, the first Illinois game, right?
He got caught out there, and there was a long shift, and he was going as hard as he could, and there was maybe about 6 minutes to go in the first half, and there's finally a whistle, and he was laying on the ground like this, on the deck. For people that say, oh, these are 21-year-old guys. They can play 40 minutes tonight, 40 minutes tomorrow in the morning, 40 minutes the day after, 3 times today. They're young guys. They got young legs. Bull crap. They max out so hard, and the opponents take so much out of them and the way Michigan State plays, Izzo's like, yeah, you guys want to play hard? Try running with us. Meanwhile, our guys, they're only going to play 22 minutes, but it's going to be the hardest 22 minutes of their life. They're going to run in transition, they're going to run to the glass, they're going to play hard on defense, and they're going to want to come out if we're doing it right. And
I think the fact that he's off the bench now.
Holloman was maxing out that game, got caught out there, and that's when Holloman was starting, and then Fears would go to the bench, and he'd stay on the court, and he stayed, and he played a longer shift, and there, Michigan State's going up and down, and hey, it's first half, and he's dead tired. And he got fouled, TV timeout, had to go out and make 2 free throws to come and sit out. I'm like, man, he's begging to make these free throws so that he can sit out, so he can get a breather. So that's part of Michigan State's secret sauce, is to play so hard and tire you out while their own players get tired, but they go 9 or 10 deep. Now that's going to be tested against Maryland. It's going to be very interesting because Maryland only goes 5 deep. They play a couple of guys for like 7 or 8 minutes, including the Geronimo kid who came from Indiana, right? But mainly they stick with 5. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup to see their 5 against Michigan State's going with 9, trying to run them out and tire them out. And Maryland's very combustible. They went up on USC 11-0, hitting 3-pointers early in the game, and that was a TKO in the first round. That's going to be an interesting matchup against Maryland. But yeah, you were starting to make a point about Holloman, and he got tired in that Illinois game. What was the rest of your point on that one?
Well, to the fact that now that he's coming in at, either probably the 6-minute mark at the first half or the
3-minute,
first immediate timeout.
Like 3-minute mark usually. Before the TV timeout, he's usually in.
But I think he gets the benefit on that when he's playing against a guy that's been there playing 3 or 4 minutes. It's like Frankie Fiddler. Frankie Fiddler is the last guy that Izzo subs in, but he's so fresh. That's why he has so much success, I think, is that he's so much fresher than the other guys. He comes in there and he's battling for rebounds. He's getting in the paint. I mean, he's so active because he's been sitting around he won't come into like maybe 12 minutes is gone in the game sometimes in the first half.
Yes. And you're going to get hard floor burn basketball out of him. And if you're on the court and number 8's checking in, you're like, who's this guy? Man, this guy's putting his elbow in my esophagus. He's jumping over me for rebound, this spaz. Who's this guy? He's out there trying to earn more time. And when you've got a good program, that's the way it is. And Holloman, here's the other thing. Michigan State goes to the bench at the 3-minute mark, and they get faster. They're bringing in Holloman, Cooper, and Carr.
Who does that?
Izzo.
I mean, I'm just saying that. I just think that's the way, and I don't think that dynamic. You can't get ready for it. I mean,
if you're Maryland and you're out there with your same 5, and they go to the bench, and you're like, who are these guys coming in now? And I'm a little bit tired. I got to run up and down with number 55 now. I got Holloman with that.
Derek Queen's great and all, but I don't think he's ever ran. Like Derek Queen is not an athlete. I mean, he's just Zach Randolph 2.0, but they're going to run him. They are going to run him. Unless, as long as Michigan State can stay within 5 or 6 at halftime, because like you said, Maryland has a tendency, proclivity to blow people out in the first half, and, they have to get back in the game. Except that wasn't the case against Iowa the other day. They're down 4 against Iowa, and they outscored them like 30 points in the second half. I couldn't figure that out. But I think the battle of attrition, like Maryland, when you only play a team one time, it's like Robbie Hummel said the other day when Purdue hadn't played Michigan State. He's like, they don't realize how you have to get back and how you have to run. In the old days, when we played the teams twice, they knew coming back, this is what you had to do. You're a lot more familiar with that team. These teams haven't played Michigan State yet. They haven't seen this, and they don't want to see this. And I think that you saw that on Michigan on Friday night. You saw that with Purdue on Wednesday. I think you're going to see the same situation with the rested Michigan State team, playing on Wednesday. Same thing with Wisconsin. You don't see it every day. It's like a knuckleball pitcher. So you have a tendency, it takes longer to figure it out. And I think that's the benefit of the doubt, or the benefit for Michigan State this year, is that you don't play everybody twice,
Right. And Michigan State, as good as their transition game has been in previous iterations and generations of the Izzo era, it would get slowed down against Big Ten familiarity. And you might not see it amp back up again until the NCAA tournament. But that's a good point. That's a little different this year because the lack of familiarity with some teams. Purdue still knows what to do and slowed it down to an extent. Michigan did not. Michigan was trying to get back. It was a point of emphasis, but I saw a quote from a Michigan assistant coach who said he had spoken with somebody in the Big Ten who remained nameless. He says, you won't realize how fast they are until you get out there and get with them. And like the one play when they hit Carr on a transition game, alley-oop jam. It was right when Wolf, I think, or Golden missed a backdoor layup, missed the layup, and Michigan State had the rebound up court, dunk. And Wolf was looking around like, where'd that dude come from? And Wolf said after the game, he's like, it seemed like every once in a while they were just back on us so fast. it was new for them. The rivalry was new. The whole thing was new. And that was a factor in Michigan State beating them, and they're going to have to beat them again to win the Big Ten title if they can beat Maryland, beat Wisconsin. Or go 1-1 against those two and then beat Michigan again. That should do it. If you go 3-1, should do it, I think. Anything else, Nils, before I let you go? I appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, nothing. Just best time of the year. You know, you're having longer days, a lot more sunlight at the end of the day. So it'll be good for Michigan State basketball moving forward, I think.
All right, Nils. Appreciate your help. Appreciate your insight. We'll see you over at SpartanMag.com soon. Take care, buddy. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, buddy.
There he goes, Nils Deco. Great to hear from him. Let's go over here to the comments and reactions, see what we got. We got St. John's, Michigan, Jason saying, go green, go white. Who else we got? Rosalind Russell saying, go green. Whole Tuck, the Bell Cow from Austin, Texas. St. John's, Michigan saying he's glad Purdue lost. Any Robert South sightings lately? We've not seen Robert South, but our starting lineup is we got St. John's, Michigan, Jason. He's the point guard. Rosalind's our 4. She's stretch 4. She's a shooter. Old Tuck down low. He's dirty. Keep an eye on Old Tuck. John Elke. That's a good name. Clarkson. He's their shooting guard every time. He's a shooter. They shoot in Clarkson. And we've got Nom Nom Nanavor, the wing guard from Canton. It's a good question about Robert South. He used to be a regular here. We've not seen him. Daniel Berry checking in. Good to have Austin Wolf here. Appreciate the compliments. Old Tuck says, in upcoming big games, it's going to become difficult to play Booker and maintain the level of team play required to win. He's a liability in several areas. I don't disagree with that, and you've seen his playing time decrease. He is shooting better. He made that 3 against Michigan when they needed it. That was a nice play, and Raftery mentioned that he did a good job on a switch. Lateral defense, on-ball defense for Booker. He's pretty good at that, but it's rebounding where it just, he gave up a rebound against Michigan. He tried to put a body on Wolf, and he did. You could tell that Booker was trying to do it, but then the shot goes up, and Wolf jumped quicker to it and tipped it out to a Wolverine teammate, went down as an offensive rebound. On Booker's watch, Booker came out of the game after that. But for the most part, I thought that Booker, when he guarded Wolf, I thought Booker survived that. Survived some switches, survived some time on Golden here and there, and made that big three-pointer. Cut the Michigan lead to 32-27. That was a big play at that time because Michigan had been rolling, and that was a nice one from Booker. And Booker's shooting has been good, but you're right. It's exactly right. With these tight games, you shorten the bench. He'll play in the first half, see if he can make a shot. But when it comes down to securing and protecting possessions, he's not equal to that task still. Old Tuck says if he was not rated highly in high school, he would not be playing right now. I think that there's an investment in playing time for him. I think that it's a pet project for Izzo because Izzo didn't play much last year for good reason. And his mantra was to Booker and Booker's people was like, stick with me. You're going to be fine. It's just going to take time. It's going to take time. So I think he wants to make good on all of that. But you're right. At winning time here, championship time, it's possessions are too important. And you got to be able to trust somebody, and you can't trust him right now. But the shooting's coming around for him. $5 Tommy says Wednesday's going to be maybe the toughest game yet. YT Sparty said, it looks like we played Illinois at the right time. Is that win tainted now? That's a great point. I mean, when they played Illinois the first time, I know that Marshallonis, or whatever his name is, Casper, what's his name, great player, had foul trouble, did not see the whole unit that they had, the whole playing group. But that Illinois team was good, and when Michigan State played in Champaign, that Illinois team was good. Now Johnson's injured. That was a quad 1 win. But now Johnson's injured, and they're going to be losing games, so that's no longer it's probably going to end up being a quad 2 game in the net rankings. That's one of the things that bothers Izzo. It's like he'll be like, when we played Illinois, they were good. The record's not going to be good, but the Illinois team we beat was good. And that win is not going to be as strong in the computer rankings as it should be because when they had the full arsenal, it's a different team than what they are right now. Illinois looking bad. not only have they had some injuries with Johnson going out prior to that with illnesses and Ivicic when he was sick and everything, they didn't have a real deep team, and I don't know why they redshirted Ty Rodgers. That makes no sense. Not only did they redshirt him, but he's one of the few guys that you had returning. So in terms of carryover from how the coach wants to present his program as you're building a culture or trying to, and you have all these transfers coming in, and then a couple guys get hurt, there's no program fabric and culture to carry you through. And that's what, among other things, that's what Illinois is severely lacking right now, is when the apple cart was just a little upset, they had nothing, they had no foundation to fall back on. And you're seeing a foundational collapse because none of those guys are returning players. Maybe one is, but they don't have that collective cohesion like Michigan State has with that buy-in. Not only does Michigan State go 9 deep, yeah, there's 3 or 4 new guys, but there's a collective there that when they're down 16 at Illinois, they just kind of persevere, and it's pretty impressive right now. Old Tug says, yep, he's been around, I don't know who you're talking about. I think are we trying to win a championship or coddle over an overrated 6'11" guy that has zero passion and grit? Well, as the season goes along and they get in these championship games, he'll get a shift in the first half, but he's not playing many minutes as it is right now, and it still is somewhat of an investment in time, playing time. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I really don't. But Cooper, I mean, he made that 3-pointer, and that was huge. He played Booker. I'm talking about Booker had 8 minutes. So, Old Tuck, I know you know basketball. I know I hear what you're saying. You're asking, are we going to win a championship or coddle over an overrated 6'11" guy that has zero passion and grit? Good question, but are you going to get too bent out of shape out of a guy playing 8 minutes? And I think he played 5 minutes against Purdue. He's a 5-minute player. If he were playing 25 minutes a game and these things were happening, it was causing possession losses and losing games, you'd have a great point, but the minutes are down for a reason. Eric M says, go green. Appreciate all the coverage. Appreciate you, Eric M. Appreciate you for sure. Hearing some laughter in the studio somewhere. Old Talk losing his temper now. Chaos Money Boss Bag Boy says, I still have hope for Booker, but he needs to lock in on defensive rebounding. Yes, he does. All right, let's go back here to, what day is today right now? It's Sunday. We've got press conference tomorrow. I've got a lot more questions to go. We have burnt 90 minutes tonight talking about things. We got through one question and spent some time with Nils, and I've got these other questions. Desert Sparte from Arizona says, count big game on Wednesday. What are the keys to stopping Maryland? I feel like this is the hardest game of the 4 remaining, Desert Sparte says. He says, who guards Queen and Reese? Talking about Derek Queen, 6'10 freshman. Nils was talking about him earlier. McDonald's All-American, 15.9 points per game, 9.1 rebounds. He's got some heft to him, playing a lot of minutes. Michigan State's going to run him. We'll see how that looks. Reese, 6'9 senior, 14 points a game, 9 rebounds a game. Those guys are both averaging 9 rebounds a game, 6'9 and 6'10. They play a lot of minutes. They're better than Kohler and Cooper and Zapawa and Booker. But it'll truly be 4 against 2. And those guys will be great early, and Michigan State's going to run them. They're going to make them run guard ball screens. They're going to make them run in transition. We'll see what it looks like. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Michigan State's played in a few of those. The guard, Gillespie. They got shooters out there. Gillespie, 42% from 3. Rodney Rice, 36% from 3. Selton Miguel, 43% from 3. Selton Miguel's transfer from USF, native of Angola, 6'4". Rodney Rice, 6'4". Gillespie, 6'1". Gillespie, not shy. He'll let it fly. So you got those 3 shooters and those 2 bigs, and they go and they run with those 5. On defense, they'll play some zone, and then it morphs into a matchup man-to-man. So it's zone at the beginning, like Oregon did. Remember, Oregon did that. They played some zone, and then it morphs to man. So Michigan State finally got into a rhythm against Oregon by just going ahead and running zone offense as their defense was getting set, rather than waiting it out. But yeah, Maryland's good, man. They've been hot. 21-6. Maryland's won 8 of their last 9 games. Maryland's won 8 of their last 9. Their two losses, they lost at Northwestern in overtime, January 16th. They lost at Ohio State by 3. Number 4 in the Big Ten in rebound margin. Michigan State, by the way, number 1 in the Big Ten in scoring defense, number 1 in field goal percentage defense, number 1 in three-point percentage defense. Michigan State's been, they've usually been pack line, make you shoot over the top, and there's still some of that, but they're pressing out a little bit more than they have in the past. And it's shown itself with the three-point defense is better this year. But pressing up, they are giving up some more back cuts than usual. Now, they will play and make you shoot over with some guys, but they're pressing up and contesting more threes this year, and it's shown in the conference stats. Number 6 in the Big Ten in field goal percentage offense. Number 13 out of 18 in three-point percentage in Big Ten games. 32.7% in Big Ten games from three-point range. Not as terrible as the seasonal stats since they've been playing in the Big Ten, and that includes the 2 games in early December. But in Big Ten games, which I think is more indicative of where they are as a three-point shooting team at this point, 32.7, not terrible. 13th in the Big Ten. Not great at all. But I think the stat was, I heard this on a podcast the other day. Since 2012, only 2 teams have made the Final Four while shooting worse than 33.1% from three-point range for the season. Only 2 teams since 2012. So in the last 12 seasons, only 2 teams have gotten to the Final Four when shooting 33.1% or less from three-point range. Both of those teams were Rick Pitino Louisville teams. 33.1 or less. Michigan State is 32%, 32.7 in Big Ten games. They're right on that Mendoza line. Now that's with, and we know Akins can shoot better than he's been shooting. We know, Fiddler doesn't get many shots anymore, but we know he's better than a 17% three-point shooter. We know that, right? I mean, I'm not expecting him to attempt 23-pointers for the rest of the year. But here and there, like the one that he made against Purdue, Kohler, the ones he made against Illinois, not expecting him to go 3 for 4 from three-point range all the time. But it's not like you're asking Aloysius Anaganye to become a three-point shooter. There's a chance that Kohler, here in year number 3, which is really his second year, because last year he lost due to injury pretty much. There was a time when nobody would have thought that A.J. Granger was going to become that good of a three-point shooter. Or even, Adrian Payne in time became one. Gordon Sutton, no one thought he was going to be a shooter that he became. So I don't close the door on the possibility that Kohler can become a 33% three-point shooter. He's not going to be Granger this year, but he's working on it, and once in a while it looks good, and he misses a couple shots, and his will bark at him. I'm still not sure what a good one is and what a bad one is, but when Michigan State is in the second round of the NCAA tournament playing a good Clemson team or something like that, somebody's going to have to make some shots. They get the Sweet 16, they'll play a good team that's probably going to play some no-middle defense, someone like Ole Miss or something, and you better not go 4 for 30 from three-point range on that night. And when you get to that tournament and the dice gets rolled, that's when you need to have a three-point shooting night like Michigan State had against Michigan. It needs to happen on that night. And there's been a lot of nights over the years when Michigan State has gotten that kind of shooting. And I'm not saying Kohler's going to do it, but he can do it. I'm not saying Akins is going to do it, but he can do it. I'm not saying Fiddler's going to go 1 for 1 from three-point range in a key moment, in a key game, but he can do it. It's not like you're asking the freshman version of Eric Snow to make a three-pointer. So, 4 games to go. Get your crap together. Still working on it. So I'm going to wrap this up. We got some other questions. We're going to get to those. I'm going to commit to doing another one of these later in this week. I got some more questions here, and we're going to get to those. But we've gone for an hour and a half, and I'm going to try to do a second one later this week and push these questions and run one out maybe in the afternoon sometime this week. So keep an eye on it. Spartan Mag Live. We're going to wrap it up now. We appreciate all the people coming in and checking us out. Make sure to go to SpartanMag.com, become a subscriber, give us a like in this channel, subscribe to the channel, go to SpartanMag.com. $1. Is it $1 a week or what is it? Go check it out. It's $1 a month, $1 a week. It's $1 a week. $1 a week, SpartanMag.com. Try it. You'll love it. If you like this kind of analytical discussion on Michigan State sports, that's the place to be. And we'll be back with another Spartan Mag Live. We're going to have a second one this week. It's going to happen. We're going to make it happen. Hold me to it. Well, in the meantime, we'll see you over at SpartanMag.com. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for everybody for posting. Well, actually, before I sign off, let me go through these reactions because some people might have posted some things. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Spartan MD says I should have some hype music. We used to have hype music, but it's hard to do that now because of the copyright situations. Comp, where does your BDI have Michigan State seated as heading to March? I don't have a BDI yet. I've got BNI, Big Nose Index. I'm going toward the Bald Dome. Not there yet. Michigan State seated. If Michigan State wins the Big Ten, I'm guessing if they finish the regular season 4-0 and go win one, lose one, and say in the Big Ten tournament and go home, as long as you don't play a rival, that's the way to do it. Win the regular season championship, go to the Big Ten tournament, win one, lose one, get home, rest, get ready. If they do that, if they go 4-0, win one, lose one, I think they're I don't know, man. The schedule strength is not as great as it used to be, but if they beat Wisconsin, beat Maryland, beat Michigan again, it'll elevate. I don't know. I'm not very good at that stuff. Probably a 3. I did not take a cowboy hat. YD Spartan says, whenever I tried to see Booker highlights, they were always 3-point shooting. I think people thought a big guy that can shoot. You're exactly right. And we told you, SpartanMag.com, respectfully and diplomatically, with all due respect to Xavier Booker, we told the fans 3 years ago, we said, be patient. He's not as good as his ranking. It's going to take a long time. And a lot of people told us we were idiots. He's ranked number 5. Don't see how high he's ranked. I'm like, I know. I've been doing this for 35 years. Trust us. And people were like, you guys are crazy. You guys suck. I felt bad for him. He didn't ask to be ranked that high. It's not his fault he was ranked that high. All right, we're still talking about Booker here. Strength in numbers is a real thing. Let me zip through here real quick. Hayden Roberts wants to know how much snow in East Lansing. Hayden in Jacksonville, Florida. I got up to like 38 degrees today, and the sun felt warm, actually. I was doing a couple things outside. Did a little cross-country skiing yesterday, and the snow was good. I'd say there's about 9 inches, but I think we lost an inch today. But it's been a few years since I've seen this much snow around here. And I was sick there. I caught this cold that wouldn't go away. I don't know what it was. Had like three relapses, traveled, caught it again. I was going to travel, called off travel. And so I didn't get to go out and do as much winter sport activity in February as I wanted to because I got sick and it really bothered me and I'm angry about it. But to answer your question, about 9 inches of snow, I'd say right now. And it's supposed to get up to 41 tomorrow, so that snow is going away real soon. Global Merchant says, truth is we have depth and emerging talent, and emerging NBA talent. Note this, comp. Jace will take over more and more as they get deeper into the season. That depth plus Jace is a Final Four capable, dare I say, natty. I don't disagree. I think Auburn is pretty good, pretty special this year. I think Cooper Flagg is pretty good and special at Duke. They're going to be tough. Flagg plays good defense also, and he keeps getting better. He's a good facilitator. So I think Michigan State can make the Final Four with Izzo, and if these things continue to improve, but you want to avoid Auburn and Duke, in my opinion. If you match up with them at some point and you roll the dice well and everything's great, maybe you can beat them, but you're better off not having them in your bracket. Desert Sparty says, comp, enjoyed listening to you on Stout's show every Thursday. Interesting to hear how your career started. Oh, we talked a little bit about that this week when Fred Heumann was on. We talked about some things. I can't remember what I talked about. But, yeah, Fred, with some offbeat questions, I just kind of started yapping. I don't know. Do you think this Michigan State team could win the championship? Kendall's asking. The Big Ten championship, yes. I wasn't really thinking that 3 months ago. The national championship, I mean, that's 6 weeks away. I understand the tournament starts in 4 weeks, but you're talking 6 weeks from now. A lot can happen between then and now. Things can happen to other teams. Things can happen to this team. I mean, if Kohler and Akins and Fiddler start shooting, yeah. But it's hard to win 6 in a row unless you've got dudes that can shoot. Michigan State's got a couple, but they've also got some guys that people aren't needing to guard. Hey, Chris Martinez, appreciate it. Super chats are back in 2025. Where do you think Michigan State gets seated? We just talked about that a second ago, and I didn't have a very good answer. I'm looking for... Wait a minute. But Chris, I really appreciate your support. There it is. Chris Martinez, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the support, Chris. Thank you. Really appreciate your contribution to the tip jar. Seeded, I'm going to guess 3 right now because I think they're going to win at least 3 of these last 4 games. I'm going to say 3. Whitey Spartan says none of these teams in the SEC have faced a defense like Michigan State. Michigan State's playing good defense. That ball pressure, the guards, and the collectiveness. Cooper's good as a glue guy, and Jace Richardson is a glue guy. They got some big guys with some fouls to give. I tell you what, Booker is doing some decent things on defense with the switches and the lateral movement and the length. He's good on ball. Just off ball rebounding, he quits for a second, and it's keeping him off the court. All right, I'm gonna. Thanks, George. Great to hear from George. Of course, George is former guitar player and keyboard player for Surrender Dorothy, one of the top 25 East Lansing bands of all time. I met George once, didn't I? I saw George at the elevator at Spartan Stadium one time. It was with his kids. Great to meet him. Nobody knew Jace was going to withstand in Big Ten play and continue to be the most efficient player we have on offense. No, didn't see that coming. A lot of posts here. Might as well wrap it up. Appreciate everybody posting comments. I'm not going to be able to go through all of them. Man, there's a lot of them. Appreciate it. A lot of conversations amongst yourselves. Another one from George Page here. Heat check for Holloman. Great confidence. Wolf was slow to close out on 2 of those 3-pointers. Yeah, when they switch and they leave those bigs on guards, you know, the scouting report says that Michigan State doesn't have great shooting, but on a given day, they can make some of those. Obviously. And when they do, it's hard to beat Michigan State. Man, a lot of posts. Appreciate all the posts here. I'm just kind of zipping through some here. A lot of posts. Most posts we've had in a long time. Anyway, appreciate everybody and all the posts and the support at SpartanMag.com. Become a mag. We'd love to have you over there. Everybody have a great week. We're going to see you in a couple days. Michigan State's got press conferences on Monday, playing Maryland on Wednesday. Keep an eye on your local listings. Maybe we come back on Tuesday. We'll see. Maybe Thursday. I don't know. But thanks for checking in. We'll see you next time. Everybody take care of each other. Good.